Hi, I'm Mike McLean. Welcome to the Short Circuit podcast brought to you by Swift Aircraft. In this series, we'll be chatting with a variety of people from all walks of life, but who all have one thing in common: aviation. We'll discuss how and why they got into aviation, what or who inspired them, and what they would say to encourage young people to get involved. Flight fascinates many of us, and our guests will explain why they are compelled to look to the sky. Today's guest on the Short Circuit is Ole Steen Hansen, professionally known as Steen. Steen is an author and photographer based in Denmark. His range is wide, covering children's books and non-fiction subjects such as history, motorsport, architecture, etc. But his passion is aircraft. I met Steen at an air show some time ago and found him an interesting and intriguing character. Over the years, we've maintained contact with the intention of inviting him to Swift Aircraft when our prototype gets in the air. We've also sent each other the odd picture that we're pleased with, but I was keen to find out a bit more about him and his thoughts on where aviation is today and how it relates to the current society. We've not really had the opportunity to get into a serious conversation before, but I was confident that he would have a distinct perspective on the subject and would make a worthy guest here on the Short Circuit. So, dear listener, let's listen into the conversation. And today's guest is Mr. Steen Hansen. My first question to you, Steen, is who are you? So introduce yourself, tell us what you do, what your role is in aviation.
Hello, Mike. Nice to be here, back in England, so to speak. I'm a writer photographer, and I do books for adults, grown-ups, or I do books for kids, and then the magazine stories for Aviation magazine in a number of countries. Mm-hmm. And it's historic, it's present, so it's all kinds of aviation I'm into in these sort of ways.
Right, excellent. I must admit, having looked through some of your photographs that you posted online, some fantastic images there, and you must get some great access to do especially the air-to-air shots. That looks really exciting.
Air-to-air is it's a very special thing to do. It takes a lot of planning to get the planes you want to photograph in the air with the right pilots who is capable and safe when it comes to flying real close. Mm-hmm. And then somebody to fly me. I do have a license, but I don't fly and photograph at the same time when you have an aircraft a few feet away, or perhaps a few meters away if you want to add a bit to the distance. Mm-hmm. But it's very special to be up among the clouds, for instance, with a guy or a lady out there in the other aircraft. Mm-hmm. Very close, trusting each other. Now, we don't hit each other. We want to get back home for tea, and get these photographs done. It's very, very satisfying.
It must be. I'm really jealous. It's something I've always wanted to do. So one day I'll get to, even if I'm just flying alongside to watch. That'd be fun.
Yeah, or you can come in the back seat.
Oh, that's fine. I'm there for that. Don't worry about that. Yeah. Okay. So we'll roll on to my next question now. So what I really want to know is what got you started in aviation? Was there a particular incident or a person or a day? What got your imagination hooked into aviation?
I don't come from an aviation family, so it's not like I have a lot of a background in that respect. But when I was 10, 11 years old, my family moved into a house that was situated under the flight path into a Danish Air Force base.
Oh, wow.
So I got to watch a lot of military aircraft coming over my rooftop window. And then I got into building plastic kits, later balsa wood kits, and started gliding when I was young, stopped that again for various reasons, and got into photography, writing, reading about it, meeting pilots. So there has been many, many ways I have been into contact with aviation. And to me, it's a great adventure, which mm-hmm. you can get into in many ways.
Right. So, and in your writing, is your writing solely about aviation, or do you cover other subjects as well?
I have covered many subjects over the years, all of them non-fiction, but it has been country books. I've written one on London, for instance, one on Vietnam, which is out in English, or came out in English many years ago. Social issues, animals, machinery, whatever. But again and again, I get back into history and aviation. Mm-hmm. That is my main subjects.
Yeah, so it drags you in, it pulls you in.
I don't think I will ever be able to get out. I'm stuck here.
So can you remember how you got started with the aviation photography? I mean, other than standing around at an airfield and taking photographs, how did you manage to talk your way in, or were you asked to come and take pictures, or did you persuade your way in to get airborne? Or
I was asked by an English publisher to do a book on aviation for kids.
Oh, right.
And I was at this editorial meeting in Brighton, said I can do that, and I have some photographs. Unfortunately, I have no air-to-air photographs. We have to get them from somewhere else. And coming out from that meeting, I thought that was really stupid to say. I mean, you want to be a photographer and writer, and you sit up there claiming you have no air-to-air photography. So I got back to the flying club where I live in Denmark, saying, now, could we try to do some air-to-air photography? And it was, the first plan was really good, but nobody was capable of putting it into practice. So it was really bad, very bad pictures, you could say. But over the years, I have developed it, always been rather critical of my own efforts, and I've seen what other people have done. And then I got into contact through just being in the aviation environments with people who know how to fly formations. There's a group of people in a Danish museum on the West Coast. They were very good. They have done the civil, most of them, but they have done it for fun since they were young guys. So they can fly close, very safe. And then I have flown with military pilots or ex-military pilots. They are taught how to fly formations. And that is essential if you want to do safe close-up photography in the air.
Yeah. Would you say that just making sure that you're in and around the right environment is an advantage? Well, obviously it's an advantage, but would you say it's essential? You know, you've got to put yourself out there, you've got to contact the right people, make some effort to get the access that you need. It's very rare that it's going to fall into your lap, at least until you have some sort of reputation.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's nobody would call on my front door saying, now, would you like to do some air photography? You need to get out there, meet people. And like this group of people connected to an aviation museum I mentioned, it took some time. You know, for a start, you cannot expect that they think you're great, because you may not be great. And maybe other people come around and they have things to do. But there was especially one flight I did with a guy. He was flying a Chipmunk. And the first time we did it, the weather was not perfect, but I just sort of sensed that I could do some really good work with him. So coming down, I said to him, could we try another evening with the sun set low and then over the coastline? And he agreed with that. And it turned out to be some very, very good pictures. And after that, you know, he showed them to his friends. That kept me going. And once you've done something that is good, it of course becomes much easier.
Yeah. So word of mouth and building a reputation gets you, it starts to feed on itself and gives you the things that you need and the access that you need.
Yes. And also when I started doing air-to-air, that was in the mid-90s. It was not so common at the time. So you said you got further with less spectacular results. It's more common today. So now you need to be better, basically.
Yeah, because everybody's got a camera now. Everybody's got video on the phone. Everybody's got and some of the phone cameras, they can look pretty good most of the time. At least if you're looking at the pictures on a phone or on a small screen.
Yes, that's
Once you blow them up a little bit, then you start getting back to real cameras. But that's a different.
that's right.
It's a different
But
conversation.
there's one thing that I have sort of really developed over the years that is strange as it may sound, that pictures of aircraft can be boring.
Yeah.
What really matters is the background.
Yeah.
So
yes. It's the context. It's putting the whole thing together.
So when I do air-to-air now, it's I study the area. We cannot like fly for 1 hour to get to the place I want to photograph. It's too expensive. So maybe I look within a 30-minute radius or 20-minute radius, find something that would be a good background, some shoreline, forests, lakes, cityscapes, whatever, or cloudscapes if they appear. And the real good picture, in some respect, is like you could take the aircraft away and it will still be a nice picture.
Right. So you're visualizing ahead of time how you want this image to look, and then you're dropping the aircraft into that image just to show the aircraft to its best features and so. Because not all aircraft are beautiful, but I think all of them at some point will look, if not beautiful, they can look impressive or delicate or scary or whatever.
Yes,
you can make them dramatic.
Yes, and actually, some of my pictures may look a bit dramatic, but usually they are taken very quiet. You know, there's nothing dramatic about shooting them. But it's a background that makes it, and the way I tilt the camera, or we fly circles with the aircraft. But they're really important in this request for pilots who can do formation flying, is that if they hang on to the aircraft I'm sitting in, and I can place them either by hand signals or over the radio, bit up, bit down, bit forward, whatever, or break away. It's if they can do that and stay there, I can place the aircraft I'm sitting in, talking to my pilot, so we get the right background, the right angle of the sun, the right altitude, that sort of things.
Right. Okay. What's your favorite, or what's the best aircraft you've flown in for taking pictures from? So not necessarily the one that you would want to fly in, but if you're what's your favorite camera ship?
The one I have used most of the time is the Cessna 172. It's a very, very ordinary aircraft. You can open the windows. It's not 100% necessary, but it just gives you more options with turning the camera backwards, so you don't have to shoot in there, too much through the glass. But Cessna 172, Cessna 150. One of the things that is important with the aircraft is that they should have somewhat the same performance as the aircraft you're going to photograph. Like I have not photographed any Spitfires, but they would be hard pressed to follow a 172. I did a DC-3 over Copenhagen, our capital, from a Cessna 172, and that was slightly challenging because the DC-3 was not totally happy at the airspeed they had to fly in order not to overtake us.
Yeah.
But it was very experienced ex-military pilots who flew it, so it went beautiful.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that's an opportunity. A DC-3 is not something you see every day for most of us. Okay, within aviation, things are changing so fast in the world these days. Everything is developing and shifting and so on. So what do you anticipate is coming into aviation over the next few years? What changes or innovations do you think you will see or be photographing, say, in the next 10, 15 years? What's coming over the horizon?
I'm pretty sure that electric flight will take off much more than it has so far. I have flown in one electric aircraft, photographed 2 air-to-air, seen more than that. they tend to be what we call ultralights. Do you call them microlights or whatever?
There's microlights and ultralights in the UK, but yes.
Yes.
So you're talking of the pipistrelle?
Yes,
Right.
I flew the pipistrelle Wheelies recently as a pilot, but with an instructor next to me. So I didn't fly it all on my own, but I had a go at it, and then we did some air to air with it. And I photographed the other electric I did in Hungary, in a Hungarian plane. They needed some photographs, and I did too. So we teamed up with that. But at the moment, the great challenge is the batteries. It's a serious challenge at the moment. Like the pipistrelle, it's really the pipistrelle wheelies. It has weight limitation, and they cannot really make it any more heavy with the batteries in it. But if you have two big guys, you are sort of stretching, stretching
you're pushing the envelope.
You're stretching the rules, but maybe you should slim a slightly bit so you don't get over the maximum takeoff weight if you're two big blokes. So, and the flying time, again, due to the batteries, it's only like 30 to 40 minutes.
Wow. Okay.
Which is not a lot, and it's a light aircraft, meaning also that it flies like an ultralight aircraft, which is more sensible to gusts and turbulence than an ordinary general aviation aircraft like a Cessna or a Piper.
Right. Okay. So, taking that into account, when you were flying the pipistrelle, was flying an electric aircraft fundamentally different from flying a piston engine aircraft as far as the feel of the aircraft? Was there less noise? Was there a difference in response time? How did it feel compared to a quotes normal aircraft?
Yes, it's not different. It's slightly more slightly less noisy, but you still got the wind coming around the aircraft at the airspeed. You still have the noise from the propeller. The engine makes very little noise, but it is quieter. But I wouldn't say a lot. For people down on the ground, it's much less noisy. Right. What handling is concerned, it's I don't have a lot of experience, but I look very carefully at how much battery is left. You do that in an ordinary aircraft, but you start off with maybe fuel for 4 hours. So the first couple of hours, you sort of take it easy. And then you start wondering, well, within an hour or so, I need to find somewhere to land. Right. With the electric aircraft, after the first 10 minutes, you say, now we need to be sure we can get down again. Yeah. There's not a cow on the runway or crashed aircraft, whatever, because you cannot really fly to another airfield unless it's very close. Right. Also, there's the subject of battery temperatures. Right. You are flying with lithium batteries, and they don't like getting too hot.
No, you don't. The last thing you want is a fire, especially
you don't want fire in any aircraft. But I think least of all in an electric aircraft, because they are very aggressive fires and batteries. Yeah. Okay. So, but all this technical stuff, it's just a question of it has to mature in the sense that it becomes a normal thing. Like you have electric cars all over the place. They're not worried about battery temperatures. I think they're just there, the batteries.
Yeah, so we're still in the pioneer phase for electric flight, but it's coming.
It's coming. And there's a great benefit with electric flight is that maintenance is very, very cheap and very, very simple. These old engines we are using, piston engines with everything rattling and vibrating, they produce a lot of work in the workshop for the mechanics. Electric flight is different.
Yeah.
There's very little, and you know, the village is in the Danish Air Force. They have tried it out for 2 years just to see how the technology has matured, and they praise the craftsmanship and the ease of maintenance, but they're not happy with the weight limitations and other limitations that basically comes from this being a very light aircraft.
Okay, well, hopefully Swift aircraft can fix that in time.
Yes, you know, when I started doing radio controlled electric flight, which is something 15 years ago or something like that, a battery today producing the same kind of power is perhaps a quarter of the weight.
Wow. Okay.
And it's you can charge it much faster, and you can also recharge it faster, but you can also pull out the power very fast. So a battery now for model aircraft is much, much better than it was 15 years ago. And I'm sure there's a lot of very intelligent people all over the world working on getting better batteries for cars and aircraft.
Yeah. I think the technology is accelerating, and we'll see the benefits fairly soon. Okay.
Yes.
Moving on, we've got a couple of questions to go. So bearing in mind the developments that are coming and your own experience of aviation, is there any particular message that you would give to young people? Would you encourage youngsters to get involved in aviation, or is it something that you think is just for older people?
No. It's to me, it's still an adventure. I mean, and what I have discovered over the years, and which I might have wished I had known before, is there's so many jobs in aviation where you get into it. It's not just pilots or engineers. It's there's so many ways. Like I found my own writing and doing photography, but I think that I rarely fly alone. I do sometimes to do some photography on the ground, air to ground, but I usually take people flying, also young people. If there's a spare seat, why not? And people got a wrong impression of flying today, because flying is a aluminium tube where you sit very cramped, and you have to be in the airport, which is also very cramped, 2 hours before to fly 40 minutes. It's not so pleasant, and it's not high prestige. But to get a feeling of aviation, you should get into a glider or a light aircraft, old or new, but turn up at the airfield with gliders or general aviation aircraft and find out how to get a flight. It's not difficult. People just don't do it. But you know,
I agree. I think the image of flying these days for the majority of people is it's a bus that takes you from home to holiday and back and doesn't do much else. And that's not the thing. Aviation, getting in the air, doesn't matter whether it's a light aircraft or a balloon or a helicopter or a powered parachute or whatever it is, just getting off the ground and getting into that other element is, once you're up and you can see something, you can feel something. To me, it's totally addictive. So
yes, it's to me, it's also a different way to experience nature.
Yes,
like in Denmark, we have many coastlines. We have a lot of coastline and islands, and we have the Great Peninsula. And I especially like flying along the coast, because the coast landscapes and the sea looks completely different from the air. You cannot see it that way. It's not a substitute for walking on the beach. It's two different experiences, but you should not. You should really allow yourself to get up there and see what it's like.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so here on on the short circuit, we come to the big question, the one that everybody, they dread, and then they all get enthusiastic about it. And that question is, what is your favorite aircraft and why? And I know you're going to give me, well, I like this one, I like that one, and all the rest. And that's fine. But at the end of this, I'm going to ask you to choose one, and that can go on our virtual hangar wall. So we've got a leaderboard, leaderboard with a whole bunch of aircraft up there now. So what are you going to stick on the wall and tell me why? You see,
But
instantly, you're
yeah,
struggling now.
very, very, very difficult. Of course, there's a Cessna 172 that I fly.
Mm-hmm.
It has a special meaning to me. Lots of good experiences with it. That may be just too personal. I'm very, very fond of the DC-3.
Mm-hmm.
It has had such an impact on civil aviation and on military aviation as well. And it's a very beautiful old aircraft. I have some good experience in flying in DC-3s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely a candidate. And then, of course, it's a Spitfire, but everyone says Spitfire. You want something else than Spitfires on your wall, I suppose, just for a change. The Spitfire is extremely beautiful, and I love it every time I see one. I mean, you can never get enough Spitfires, but I think just to be a bit different, I think you should put the DC-3 on your wall.
The DC-3, okay. So also known as the Dakota.
Yes, that's a British military
Yeah.
name for it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So a very beautiful and elegant old aircraft. So twin
Yes.
engine. They must be coming on well over 80 years old now, some of them.
It's from 35. So
okay.
it's getting it.
Yeah, it's getting there.
You know, a couple of years ago, or 4 years ago now, there was a 75-year anniversary of the D-Day landings. Mm-hmm. And for that, something like 25 Dakotas, DC-3, C-47s, the same, different name for the same aircraft. They gathered at Duxford. Mm-hmm. And on the eve of the D-Day landings, they flew to France, Normandy. Mm-hmm. And I was in one of the planes, and it was.
You managed to get in that whole flight. Oh,
yeah, wow. I was in the Danish Dakota for that flight, and it's you cannot imagine the feeling that was involved. Mm. In a couple of the American planes, they had a few paratroopers who did it again. They did it at 18-year-old back in 1944, and they did it one more time. Wow, 75 years later.
That must have been emotional.
Very, very emotional. Mm-hmm. It was. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing's going to sound like that.
No.
Smell like that. It's
no.
Yeah, that's a unique event. I'm hoping that you got a lot of nice pictures from that day.
I did. Yes.
Well, you have to come and show me those at some point.
Yes.
I definitely want to see them. Okay, so Steen, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you. It's been way, way too long since we had a conversation. So what I will promise you is that when we are ready with the Swift, then you will be giving an invite and coming over to take some photographs of the Swift and come and meet the rest of the team, some of whom you haven't seen for 10 years, maybe something like this. Yeah. So it's been great talking to you. So we have, in summary for you, came into aviation because you lived underneath the flight path. You got fascinated by the things coming overhead. You combined it with your passions for writing and photography. You've forged your own niche in the whole industry, and you've traveled the world, I guess, certainly all over Europe. But
yes.
Yeah, so aviation has taken you around a lot of places. You've built your reputation, and you finally now ended up at this high point of appearing here on the Short Circuit. So, Steve, I'm going to wrap up the interview for today. I will be in touch with you very soon, and I'll just fly safe in the future.
Thank you very much, and looking forward to seeing the Swift.
Okay, cool. Speak to you soon.
Great.
So that was Steen. We could have talked for hours about planes and photography. As with some of our previous guests, it is evident that you don't need to be a pilot to get the aviation buzz. Steen is a pilot, but he didn't introduce himself as such. To Steen, words and pictures are as important as, if not more so, than the ability to take control of the aircraft. Having the vision and communication skills to direct disparate aircraft in close formation while being aware of the overall scene and lighting effects takes imagination and awareness. Being aware of the challenges and understanding the limitations of his subjects as they fly within a few feet of each other, while trusting his own pilot to interpret his instructions correctly, is impressive and must be a real buzz. Having flown in an all-electric aircraft, both at the controls and as a passenger, puts him in a rare position and right at the cutting edge of the industry, and provides him with real-world context on where we are heading for the future. For an aviation writer and photographer, you can't ask for more, I guess. It's not every day that you get access to someone in that position, so I consider it a privilege to have welcomed him here on the short circuit as one of our guests. I hope you enjoyed our chat, and keep in mind our hashtag Inspiring Aviation. See you next time, and fly safe. You have been listening to The Short Circuit, presented by Mike McLean and sponsored by Swift Aircraft with the hashtag Inspiring Aviation. This has been a Zoom Spike production.